तू चलता चल तू चलता चल तू चलता चल.
Hi, good morning, sir.
Hi, Haider. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. आप कैसे हो, sir? I'm like, how's
All
everything?
is well, all is well.
I was so curious, like, for this meeting. Like, after a very long time, we are going to be connecting. But of course, like, it's good to see you. Like, yeah.
Same here, Haider, but I would say you seem to have put on some weight, which is not good.
It's actually too much of weight, like, I'm having a, one more level over here, like, kind of double chin. So, yeah, I'm like, but from past 1 month, I'm doing a routine of, like, exercise.
Please do, Haider. It is very important. Yes, you're very young, and you
Yes,
you faced a difficulty when we spoke.
yeah, certainly. That's true. Yeah.
Every day we have to be careful, buddy. Then only,
That's
yeah. But great seeing you, and I'm sure your story would be inspiring for a large number of our students. And of course, it has been for me also. You're a brilliant guy, and so let's have Yogita has fixed up, and you thanks a lot for making yourself available. Let's
Definitely.
hope we have a good talk.
Uh-huh.
Sir, we do not have a typical questionnaire. We want Haider sir to just go with the flow with his experience, SSBs and this everything.
Okay. Certainly. I mean, like, I can take it from there. Makes sense. So, basically, of course, like, I need to give a little bit of background first about myself. So, of course, I'm from India, and I've been, like, born and brought up in Mumbai. So, initially, all my education have been in Mumbai itself. So, when I had been, like, in my bachelor's, I did computer engineering. So, of course, as a lot of Indian students have the curiosity that, I want to, like, contribute to my nation, and I want to be in the defense forces. So of course, one of them, I was also one of them. So, and then I did a bit of research that, okay, whom I can consult about these things, and whom I can approach to get a more understanding about SSB and stuff like that. Because what one of my seniors said is that even if you get into SSB and maybe not even pass it, but the experience of SSB is really important. Because the way you prepare for SSB and the way you start thinking when you prepare for SSB and all the interviews, that could be, of course, it would be required in SSB itself, but it can be, used in other corporate interviews as well. So at that time, I came across, of course, Nehru sir, and, the first talk which I had with Nehru sir, and after describing about myself and, I being from computer science background, he was like, you seem a lot of, like, kind of a technical person. So I don't know whether your skill set and whether your things which you are studying and you are aware about can be utilized in defense forces. So by the way, I gave the SSB, and I did fail the SSB. That's also true. And but yeah, after that, I went into corporate interviews, and one of the Japanese company was recruiting in Mumbai for a like, what is it called, like, pool campus recruitment. So I was one of the students out of 700 students who had actually applied for the interview. And now I'm in Tokyo. So I'm working for a Japanese company. So of course, when you talk about SSB itself, I did prepare for all the interviews and stuff like that. And that experience had been very important for me in the corporate interview, because it's the structure of answering the questions, and the fear which we have that there is going to be an officer who is going to be taking our interview. So these experiences will help you to tackle the corporate interviews. It will become so much easier for you when you sit in the corporate interviews, because the level of the process in SSB is so rigorous. It's like the corporate interviews are nothing in front of them. So that has been my whole experience for the time being, like, when you see it from SSB to the Japan. And then yeah, this is for the time being. Like, do you have other questions? Like, do you want to, like, put in something?
I would like to add one point here, Haider, which will be for the benefit of others, and that is, I remember very distinctly that when you were in the final stage of your being selected for your job at Tokyo, they asked you which job would you prefer? Would you like to serve in the Indian Army, or would you like to work for Uniqlo? And you had said that I would rate working for the army above this. And that was a very honest and a very good answer. and they still selected you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is something which I would like to share with our students, that honesty is good. It shows your character,
Mm.
and these things are very important. And if I was, I mean, people like me can be working for the corporate also. I
Yeah.
would go by that ethos. If somebody tells me honestly कि नहीं यार देखो ठीक है तुम तनका पैसा ऐसा दे रहे हो, but मैं देश के लिए काम करूंगा, I would take that chance.
Yeah, definitely. I
Right?
mean, like that's true. That's true. I mean, like by the way, like everyone who has joined this, meeting. So there is one thing. Like currently, where I'm working, I work with in the CEO office in my company. So I do have a a good look over the recruiters as well. When they do the recruitment process for our company, and this is really true. Like be it any kind of interview, like be it आप कोई भी technical interview में जा रहे हो या फिर like you're going for some other kind of consultant kind of role, it's very important to be honest in the answering. Like if you don't know the answer, just tell like I don't know the answer, but maybe after this interview I will learn about it, and maybe I can answer it better maybe in the next round of interview, something like this. So these ways you can answer, and the people will have that feeling that okay, he will definitely try for it, and in the next interview you will be challenged again maybe with that question. So these things definitely help in the interview, like as Nehru sir pointed out, that's actually true. Yeah.
I was saying that now we will come to our something about our agenda, your experience in Japan. How is the work culture there?
Okay, okay. So yeah, I mean, like Japan. Of course, when I flew from India to Japan, uh, every Indian has that picture that Japan is the most idealistic country, and like everything is in structure, and technically it's very advanced. And maybe in some parts for India, but I do see that of course there are some differences, but then all the differences come down to one point, that is about the people. Like it comes from the people itself. So in Japan, of course, right now, if you see the population, you will see 98% people are Japanese, and only 2% people are foreigners in Japan. So if you are going to be an Indian and going to work in Japan, so please remember you are only 2% of the population. So you have to learn the language. That's number one. That's the main hurdle for any foreigner. If you do not learn the language, it's going to be really hard. And after that, when you talk about the work culture, Japan, I mean, like in all the companies which I've seen in Japan, because I've been working around strategic partnership as well with a lot of companies, external companies. So Japanese companies have a business model which is very centric to customers. It's like in India, I think so. We say "Atiti Devo Bhava," some these things. Like there is a statement like this. It's like our guest is like our god. We treat our guests like god, right? Similarly, I mean, like I believe that Japan is like they believe the customer as the god, like of when they come to the business to buy something or experience something. So every business model works around the customer, and they make the customer service so easy. And like say for example, there is a policy to return something. It's very easy. They won't negotiating with you that why do you want to return, what's the reason, and stuff like that. And the people are very disciplined over here. So when we talk about discipline, it comes from the childhood. When we talk about the education system in Japan, from the childhood, the students are told that they have to clean their classrooms, they have to clean their washrooms by themselves, and the students have to like in the lunch break, in the Japanese schools, you get the lunch boxes by the you get the lunch in the school basically. So the students have to serve by themselves. It's like they have a rotation that okay, today Haider is going to be serving all the all my colleagues in the class, and then the next day the other person is going to be serving. So this is like from their childhood, they they get through these things. And they have a very good approach to cleanliness basically, very hygienic. And basically when we talk about disposal of garbage and stuff like that, they are very organized about it. So what I'm trying to say over here is that when these guys grow from a very childhood, I mean like from the very start age, they are trained, and they have that environment wherein they are thought about that you have to be independent, whether it be any situation. You have to be independent, and you have to be self-sustained basically, and disciplined and punctual. So in Japan, if you get like a single minute late, Of course, your Japanese counterpart may, see at his watch that, maybe he won't say it because they are kind of a little shy at times. So they won't say it maybe, but of course you can feel that this guy is saying that I'm 10 seconds late or 20 seconds late. So punctuality is really important in, the Japanese business manners basically. And then of course, when we talk about the first meet, when you meet with a business counterpart, there is an exchange of the business card. So of course, it depends on the culture to culture. But in Japan, they try to put the business card. So say, for example, I'm giving my business card to Nehru sir. So of course, because Nehru sir is superior to me and senior to me, so it is my etiquette that, when I give the business card, my business card should be at a below level than Nehru sir's card. So these are very small things, but these guys actually put too much focus on these small things. When it comes to the etiquettes, the discipline, and the manners and stuff like this. And these things which the people do in Japanese, Japanese people have, this actually has the direct impact on the customers, and the customers feel more easy to shop in a Japanese shop. And so there is a lot of things which I can keep on speaking about it, but just to be summarized about it, it's about the people, when it comes down to Japan and India differentiation. But then I do see that a lot of Indian companies are growing. So I do not have any defensive part wherein India is not performing well, because a lot of resources, when you talk about the international resources, are Indians. So what I mean to say to all of the other people who are in this meeting is that you go in any country, like any country around the globe, you will definitely find an Indian over there. So don't worry about that thing that you may be alone in that country or something like that. So these things are like my experience for the time being. Yeah.
Haider, I will just add to your experience, and it is once again reinforcing the thing, fact you have brought out. My son is working in Canada, and at one point of time, he was sharing a house with a Japanese guy. And my son used to say that, using bathroom with that guy used to put pressure on my son. He said he used to keep it squeaky clean. When he came out, you could never feel that there is even a droplet of water anywhere in So he said, yeah, I also had to, try to abide by that culture. Otherwise, probably I'll be making things difficult for him. So these are very good things. हमारा स्वच्छ भारत वगैरह की हम बात करें, these are very good ideas. But
Yeah.
they genuinely believe in that right from their home. It's part of their culture.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
how it is.
That's true, sir. I mean, even if you see, guys, of course, this is my rental apartment. So when I moved in, when I moved in into this apartment, they clean everything, every floor, every doors, and maybe they will even replace some things in the apartment, so that the person who lived before me in the apartment, if he has, maybe damaged something, they will make it all new, and then only they will give the keys to the consumer, which is of course me in this case. So they are very very detailed oriented for everything, when it comes to Japanese people. But let me tell you now the other side as well, because they're detail oriented. You can see a lot of news in Japan about stress, about mental challenges, sometimes in the people in the Japanese people. And also, if you see the last recent news of the last year, I think so, the deaths in Japan had been more due to the mental stress compared to COVID-19. So these are the other counterpart impacts. So of course, it's always like there are good and bad sides of both the things. And even if I'm comparing maybe two nations, which can be a too huge topic to talk about, but it comes down to the person itself. So of course, I have seen Indians as well, some Indians like this as well, who have this detail oriented mindset that I need to keep the things clean around me and stuff like that. And they try to keep themselves on time and stuff like that. So what I mean to say is, it's all about you. How do you see yourself? How do you want to structure yourself? How do you want to portray yourself to the world? So that's really important. You have to think about it. You have to take your time and sit down and think that what I am exactly, and what my etiquettes are, what my principles are. Like for my example, like even if, like, say for example, like Nehru sir talked about, when I talked with him initially about SSB and stuff like that, of course initially I was not that, maybe mature in this thing. But now when I work in my company, I can see one thing that, sometimes it's really hard for me to take orders from my superiors. And I will tell you what is the problem here. So the problem is that, I do not want to just, take up the orders and, like just follow it. I will take the orders. I will try to evaluate whether it's correct or whether it's wrong, or, whether it can be improved. So I will think about it, and then I will go back to my superior and say that, sir, your idea is good. I appreciate your idea, but how about we can do something like this? So, these things are like my characteristics. So I think so maybe, if I went in defense forces, I could have been, having troubles over there. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, like this is like has been my experience in Japan, and for the time being, yeah, I'm like it's going good for sure.
Yes, you pointed out about the differences. Of course, we cannot compare, but yes, this session is for learning something from the Japanese culture, so that we can imbibe as students or aspirants in our routine, in our daily life, so that that systematic thing and management comes in our daily routine, so that it is reflected in the SSBs as well. So for aspirants, what do you wish to say, who are studying, who are attempting, who are going for the SSB, and how Japanese culture can help them learn something?
Uh-huh.
Uh,
I see. So, of course, like, because right now, by the way, guys, I'm like, even if I'm from technical background, the work which I do in my company is more about management and technical mixed, like, mixed of both management and technical. So when you talk about business environment and business, business management, basically, so there are a lot of structures to manage the things and, manage your business or your work, etc. So one thing which I've been, referring to a lot of time, whenever I try to solve a problem, is called something called as Kaizen. So it's a Japanese word, and it means continuous improvement. So even if you say, for example, you have solved a problem, it's your duty to, go back to that problem and rethink that, okay, in this problem, I solved it this way. This was the output. What can I add more? Like, of course, that adding more, if you keep on thinking, the product or the problem will be solved more effectively. So when we talk about, Kaizen, there has been a flow to this thing in Japan. And of course, there are some Japanese word for it, but there is an English form also of it. It's called as 5S. If you Google about it, it's very easy to find about it. It's a public information, by the way. So there is a structure of, whatever you do in your life, however you solve the problem. So it starts with first being sorting. By the way, excuse me if I forget some steps maybe. So
we need that. We need that.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, like potentially it starts with first is like sorting. So sorting is like, you need to think about basically what are the things which are necessary and what are the things that are unnecessary. And based on this thinking, you have to think about, okay, what are the things you have to get rid of, and what you do not need to do. So what I mean to say is that how you can compare this to the SSB part is that, say for example, like by the way, like I saw some videos of like Nehru sir's institute on the YouTube. So there have been some candidates who tell about that, I've been learning XYZ. So say for example, there had been a candidate who was saying that I've been learning Japanese language. So what can be the impact and what can be the interview questions for me on the Japanese language? So what I would say over here is that because you know that you are learning Japanese language, you should be able to answer that. And maybe you can answer it as that, because you are working in defense forces. So maybe I can work in Japanese counterpart, or maybe a Japanese collateral. Say for example, there is a training between Indian defense forces and maybe Japanese military forces as well. So maybe I can work in there to do the language exchange or stuff like this. So you need to decide. So like if I'm like, let me get back to the point, is that I said you have to distinguish between necessary and unnecessary. So if you tell in your interview that I am learning Japanese language, then the interviewer will ask you the questions about something related to that. But if you do not tell him that I'm not learning Japanese language, then there will be no questions about those stuff, from the interviewer. So you should think about it that, actually you can drive your own interview. So don't try to put the things into too much detail or, too much chaos, basically, that, hey, sir, I did this also, I achieved this also, I achieved this also, I was member of this also. So if you give too much detail, you are making your own interview more complex. So I want to compare this. So first is like sort. You sit down and think about necessary and unnecessary. And based on that, you think about, okay, these are the things I'm really good. So put those things in your interview when you talk to the, the counterpart officer or maybe the counterpart interviewer in your corporate interview, maybe, whatever could happen, right? Then after that, the second point is about arranging these things. It's called as set in order when you translate that Japanese thing into English. So whatever you thought about necessary, unnecessary, you set it in an order that, okay, you make an order of, this is the easiest thing for me, and this is the hardest thing for me. It's like prioritizing the things. And, then when you have the interview, you start with your first card, the easiest ones. So say, for example, you are really good in Japanese language. So then, you'll put this card first that, hey, by the way, sir, I'm good in Japanese language. Then he will start questioning about it and, maybe even test your Japanese skills. So that's about setting an order that, arranging the essential items in order for, easy access, basically. After this, the third is about shining it as in like, after you prioritize this, you have to make sure that you are really good at it. It's like you need to make sure that the objectives which you have set as first as in the priority list, you are really good at it, and you keep on working on it, until and unless the interview comes, or when you have the interview with the officer. So that's about the third point. And it's like, by the way, in business, I want to compare it in business, by the way, compared to not just in SSB, by the way. So in business is like, of course, again, same. When you sort it, it's about you remove what is not needed and keep only what is needed in the store or maybe in the business. And then second is about the setting in order. That means that you need to arrange only the essential item in order so that, it's easily accessible for the consumer. So that the consumer, when he walks in the store, he can see everything. He's not like having to struggle to find where the eggs are or where exactly are the bread. So, these things are really important. And then shine is about, keeping the things clean and tidy, and no trash or dirt is like, lying around in the store. So that's about shine. And fourth is about standardize. Standardize is about, you standardize this whole process. You establish the standard and guidelines to maintain this workplace, like in case of business. Similarly, in case of interview, you can standardize that, hey, whenever I will have this interview, I will be following this process always. Like, this is how I will start my interview. And these are the main skill set which I will try to first tell to my interviewer. That's about standardize. And then the last thing is about sustaining it, like, maintaining your business. So it's like you make it a habit, you keep on evolving, you keep on learning, you keep on doing that again and again. The more you do, the more you will, improve in that. Like, by the way, guys, if you see, a lot of Japanese companies actually are in existence for many years. These guys are for like 30 years, 50 years. They are sustaining the business for so long. So we need to think about it, that how they are doing, and why actually, if you see the west side in the startups, they start the company and the company potentially disappears after 5 years. Maybe you would have heard about some company 5 years before about some technology, and after some years it completely disappeared. So why they disappear is about, they did not improve. They did not take the customer feedback. Or say, for example, like when you talk about yourself, you did not improve. You did the interview, but you did not try to think about what exactly did I do wrong, and you did not prioritize your priorities in the interview. So this is like about Kaizen, and if you Google about it, it's called as 5S. So it talks about the sorting, setting in order, then shine, then standardize it, and sustain the thing. So this is like really important. I'm like, this is what I keep on doing in my daily stuff and problem solving with my team and the other colleagues. So it has been working for me. So I'm sure it will work for you. So yeah.
If you notice our students, you would have read, I have included a blog on Kaizen. It is there.
Yeah.
Personality development stuff. So before you proceed, Haider, we will come back to the time before you had gone for this interview and then you moved to Tokyo and all that. You had joined up with No Frills Academy. You tell me, how was your initial experience and how did you go about sorting your routine and all that? And how was it helpful to you in your later career?
I see, I see. Okay, so I mean, like, do I need to talk about like SSB specifically? Like, how did it
No,
impact?
in life, you talk of from the perspective of life.
Okay, okay.
SSB is just a subset of whatever is happening. SSB is also part of life only.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, of course, like when we talk about SSB itself, when I started, like, of course, searching about SSB and stuff like that, initially I had no idea. I mean, like, so initially, of course, I enrolled into like Nehru Sir's Institute, and then I got the material. So of course, after getting the material, I had to sort out that okay, which are the things which I do not know, or which I am weak in, or which I am strong in. And based on that, I did had communication with Nehru Sir as well. Like there's like 30 minutes, 1 hour slot wherein we used to talk in like early morning, something like 5:30. I'm like, of course, like timing was set by Rehusa, but because of this 5:30 thing, I started having a routine wherein, nowadays I wake up very early, like around, so in Japan, usually the working hours start at 7 p.m. Mostly. But because I'm a foreigner, so I always have a foreigner card, to play that, I will start working from 9 p.m. or something like that. But because, my superiors or my CTO and CEO, these people start at 7 p.m. And in India, I had made up this thing that, I should wake up maybe at 6 p.m. or 6:30, something like this. So I had that habit, that to wake up early and do my initial things, very like initial chaotic thing about, daily life, sorting those stuff like easily because of the time which I had before going to work. So when you talk about SSB, like, specifically, like the group discussion in SSB was my first group discussion in my whole life, by the way. Of course, I did have some debate competitions in my school or something like that. But those debate competitions were not like, mostly, I mean, like no one actually taught me that how to debate or something like that, right? But when you go into SSB, there is always a structure that, this is how you need to debate, and these are the topics that should keep on going in your mind when you hear the topics and how to respond to these things. So this actually helps you in the group discussion part. And let me tell you one thing which I have been which I learned from Nehru sir very initially, I think so, in the group discussion part. I don't remember where exactly I read about it, because it was like 3 years ago, by the way, guys. I mean, like, it's already 3 years I have left India and I'm staying in Tokyo right now. So in group discussion, I've seen a lot of times, like, of course, when you go for SSB interview, you are not the alone candidate, right? There will be a lot of candidates. There will be around 100 students, maybe even 120 students when the first round start actually for the SSB. So when the people come out of the rooms, there is always a chance that you can go to them and ask, hey, by the way, what was going on? What questions did they ask? And like, how was the interview? What were they exactly focusing on? Stuff like that. So one thing which I observe in group discussion is that, a lot of times there are a lot of different types of people, and there are very specific people which I always see in group discussion is that, they try to not listen to other people. So what I mean to say is that please understand, when you're sitting in SSB and when you're attending a group discussion, it's a group discussion. It's not only about you. So don't try to, over exaggerate or, like make your voice a little bit louder so that, you can suppress your other people who are sitting around you. Take it as, a chill environment. Like, it's like all of them, of course, you do not know them, but think about them as like, they are all your friends. Listen to them. So I want to focus on the word listen. That is really important. I mean, like, in our generation, because we have been given everything, we have been very very, what we say, we have been living a very easy life because there have been a very good technical boost when in our where we have been born right now in this particular generation. So we do not have the tendency of tolerance. That's really important, and that I learned from SSB, by the way. You need to listen what exactly the other person is saying, and what exactly he's trying to sing. And after listening, take some time. So in group discussion, you need to listen about from your other people what they are trying to say, and then based on that, you can say that, by the way, you may be right, and like this stuff. So let me focus something over here. This is very important. So say for example, like Yogita ma'am is like talking to me, and she says about something like, Heather, let's solve this problem by this particular way. Okay, and that solution comes to me, and now I have to think about it, that whether it is right or wrong. Okay, now understand that Yogita ma'am and me, we both are humans, we both are people. So if you go to Yogita ma'am and say that, no, your idea is worst, you did not even think about it, you are like not coming up with a good solution and stuff like that, this is really bad approach to talk to people, and to talk with a group of people whom we are talking with. Basically, the better approach is that you can tell that, by the way, Yogita ma'am, I appreciate your idea, and it really covers a lot of areas about the problem which we are thinking about. But how about this part of problem? How about the technical part? How about the community part? How about how does this problem solve about the people part? This way, it's like you appreciate the person, the counter person, because we both are human, and humans have a little bit of ego, and specifically this generation. So it's very important to keep their ego with them, and also try to solve the problem, listen to them. So that's one part about the listening. And then the next part is about the physical part, of course, which was like a lot of operational activities which happened in the SSB, wherein they give a little bit of again, they give group tasks. So guys, of course, maybe I didn't realize it at that time exactly, but now I understand why they do the things, everything in group. Because when you fight for a war, of course, India doesn't go on war, by the way. We are kind of a neutral country, always potentially. But even if you go in a war, you have to work in a group. You have to listen to other people that, okay, let's go this way. You cannot say then, no, 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 I will go this side. It doesn't work like that, right? So in the second part, of course, in SSB, there was like physical activity, stuff like that. Of course, I had learned at that time, but I did not continue. And now I am fatter and fatter day by day. So that's a little bit of problem which I'm still trying to solve. So that's the second part. And the third part is about the interview itself, wherein, oh, no, a psychology part. That was really interesting. So, there is a psychological test wherein, like, I think so there is 2 or 3 tests which happens. You are given some words and you have to write about your thoughts and stuff like that, right? So let me tell you, I don't know how people actually crack it, but in all my psychological tests, I was very honest about my answers. So of course you can read some books and try to answer it in that way that, you get selected into the SSB. But just think about it, if you answer that psychological test by that ideal format, and then you get selected in the defense forces, and, you do not you do not fit in the forces, then it can be a little bit of hard time for you, that maybe because you answered in another way, and maybe officer thought, the psychological officer who evaluated you, he felt that, okay, he is appropriate for the defense forces. Then maybe you will have a hard time afterwards, because in the interview you try to portray yourself something else. You are something else, but you portrayed yourself something else. So in the psychological test, it was really, of course, Nehru sir indicated me some ways to write about those tests. And of course, I had some materials as well. But still, I kept it very simple. Whatever I heard, I tried to write my first thought instead of, trying to rethink about it, because you have a time limit. So you cannot just you relax and write about your thoughts like in a relaxed manner. So psychological part is the area which, after doing that test, I realized a lot of places wherein, I'm so dumb, and, maybe like I actually am not that good. So that are the areas, which I actually took after the interview, and, I actually improved in some parts. So that was about the third part. And then the final is, I think so, the officers round. I'm so sorry, guys, but if I missed some other, there may be one more round or something. But I think so, the final round, there is like an officer round wherein we have an interview with the officer. So let me share you one example. I do not remember exactly the complete detail, but This again connects with the honesty part, maybe, but it may be connected in other way as well. So when we were having an interview, we were like 26 candidates, if I remember exactly, 26 or 25 something, who were selected for the after the group interviews. We were selected for the other, psychological tests and stuff like that, the physical activities, and then the officer round. So there was one candidate who went into the interview room with the officer basically, and the officer asked him about some question, some technical question about mechanical engineering, if I remember, about something related to ship, by the way. So he asked that question, and this guy, potentially did not knew the answer, and he was trying to make up that answer. That, sir, what I think, maybe it's like this, and this is how it functions, and this is how is the output and stuff like that. He kept on saying, okay. As far as I remember, he was kicked out of the room. The officer said, don't beat around the bush here and get out of here. So this was the response, and I remember that candidate coming out crying and like sharing his experience. And then I was thinking, why did it happen? So I remember that point, and when my interview came, I made sure that if I didn't know anything, I was like, sir, I don't know anything about this part. So let's maybe like I can rethink about it and answer you later or something if possible or something like that. So in the officers round, I could see the structure of the interview, and the way, of course, like I don't know, but it seems like the if you compare the SSB interview compared to the corporate interview, in the SSB interview, the officer keeps on, looking at you from top to bottom. I don't know why exactly, but if I am not wrong, maybe they are looking at your body language. Because let me tell you guys, like, of course, if you have not yet started working in any company, if you start working in a company and you interact with people, you can actually guess a lot of things just by their body language, like how they are moving. And if they are sweating, there is a possibility that maybe he's lying, or maybe he actually was in a hurry or something like that. Maybe he was late or something. Of course, there are different possibilities, but these are the things which I observed in the SSB interview. And of course, the SSB interview, it was like 45 minutes or 50 minutes interview, and he kept on asking details about everything. So after that thing, I realized that the interview is decided by you. It's you who decide. So the certificates or things which you give to the interviewer, the interviewer will ask you questions based on that. He's not going to make up something new and make you challenge into no, Heather, tell me about how to launch a satellite, how to launch a spaceship. No, no, no. He understands that you are human, so he will try to test your expertise, your knowledge. So please do not try to portray yourself as some very expert person or something like that. Just tell that, sir, I am also a normal person, and I have achieved these things. So I have a good knowledge, but maybe not in depth, because I never worked in corporate before my education. So I will try to answer your question, but let's see how it goes. So these are the things which I did in the interview. And by the way, just after the SSB interview, my current organization's interview was actually my first corporate interview, by the way, and I cracked in first go. So for this thing, there is an experience which I really want to share, and maybe it won't fit in every corporate, by the way. So for this interview, in my engineering, it can be maybe dumber to use, by the way, but I used to use a geophone. There is a geophone which comes for like 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees something, which with like buttons and stuff like that, which was coming like 3 years ago when Geo launched some phone. So because I had this phone, I never received the Google form from my current company. So we had to fill in a Google form about our information, that I am from this college and these are my information, and this is my resume and stuff like that. So I missed my Google form. But then I went into the recruitment site, which was in one of the colleges in Mumbai. And when I sat in the recruitment announcement, where they did the inauguration and stuff like that, that we are this company and we are located in Japan, these are the things we do and stuff like that. And after this session, they said that so guys who have registered for our interview, you will be sent for the you will be sent the details about the interview. Then I was like, where exactly this detail will be sent? Then I recognized, I missed the Google form. So in that, I still remember that thing very particularly in my life, because when I went to, so I went in stages. First, I asked one student coordinator in that room for that college that, hey, what should I do? Like, how should I want to, attend this interview. So he was like, no, we cannot do anything. Then, I went to the next stage. I asked the training coordinator, like training and placement officer in the college, that, ma'am, I missed this Google form, but I gave her the reason that this was the reason. So she was like, try next year. And next year basically is like, I am graduated basically. So it's difficult for me after, when you complete graduation. So what I did, I actually went and talked directly to the company representative. I ran in the corridor, and there was like some senior level officers who had came for the interview. So I ran to them, and rushing, like in my like I remember like myself, so completely sweating and stuff like that. And I was like, sir, I explained him in just 1 minute. So in 1 minute, I explained him why exactly he should give me the chance. That's what I explained him. So in just 1 minute, the purpose, there was a purpose for their interview, right? So I remembered the purpose, and based on that, in just 1 minute, I explained that, sir, these are my qualifications, this is what is my achievement, and this is why I want to sit for your company. I respect your company, and that's why please give me a chance. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience because of the device. I didn't receive my Google form, but I accept it is my mistake. You need to accept, that it was your mistake. You cannot say that I had Geo phone, so I didn't receive Google forms or stuff like that. So I was given a chance. I remember. So I still am said in my company that
This experience is more important than the we are trying to unnecessarily think about what interviewing officer will think, what psychologist will think, what GTO will think. You showed intent of why I want to join, and some sincerity and acceptance of mistake. This incident is very important.
yeah, that is not just for the interview, by the way, guys. Like, it's important for everything. I do understand that, when we study in the colleges, there is a lot of competition. We have been always been in a competitive environment, right? So we try to think about what exactly the other person will think about you. So stop thinking about it. Like, just relax and think about the objective which you have in the mind to talk to the other person. And if you are clear about it, the other person will also be, very happy to collaborate with you, and very happy to, talk about the more details about it. So this has been my experience for the time. And I'm like, I have a lot of stories, but yeah, that has been my journey from SSB to corporate world. Yeah.
On behalf of all of you, it remains for me to thank Haider. Haider, thanks for sparing your time and sharing your candid views and experiences with our students. And you have always been helpful to No Frills Academy and to me also personally. I still remember how you sorted out my laptop problem on time. That
I'm
was
like,
so nice of you. And you're a very, very sweet and a very genuine person, very helpful, very lovable. Please continue having the traits that you have, and we will remain friends and remain in touch. And yeah, that's what it is. Please take care. God bless. Thanks a lot, Haider.
definitely, sir. Thank you.
Okay.